Good morning, welcome back. We're learning Tractate Shabbos, 4th chapter, and the name of the chapter is Bameh Toimnim. Bameh Toimnim. With what may one insulate? So we learned the Mishnah yesterday. The Mishnah said that one may not insulate with mark. We learned that mark is a mess of the pulp of olives, or of sesame that remains after the oil is pressed. So that's mark. And so you're not supposed to insulate with that. You're not supposed to insulate with manure, with salt, with lime, with sand. The rule of thumb is we're not allowed to insulate with anything that adds heat. Things that preserved heat, there's different opinions of how to do it. Whether it's wet or dry, not with straw. We're not allowed to insulate with grape skins, no with flocking. What is flocking? It's unprocessed soft materials such as cotton. And what are we allowed to use? We're allowed to insulate with these things when they are dry, meaning when it comes to straw, grape skins, flocking, they can be used when they're dry, not when they're wet. So the Gemara says, start with the Gemara, Ibalu, they inquired in listing mark among the substances that add heat to food, and we said mark can be either from olives or sesame. So Ibalu gefetchel zeisim tnan avad shumshmin shapil dam. Said, is it only zeisim olives residue or olives remnants or olives pulp that is forbidden, or also we're dealing with sesame pulp? The Gemara says, "O dilma shumshumin tenan v'chol can say, oh, maybe we said that we're dealing with pulp of shumshumin, sesame, and we're not dealing with, and how much more so that we're gonna do pulp of olives will be forbidden." So the Gemara says, "Tashma, come and learn. Zeira mishumcha devei Rabbi Yanai. Kupa shetomon ba'osur anicho al gefen shel zeisim." When it comes to regarding a box in which one insulated hot food, it is forbidden to place it on top of olive mark. Okay, you can use olive mark for insulation. The Gemara says, "Shmamina shel zeisim tenan." From here we conclude that we are dealing with zeisim, with olives. So the Gemara says, you should know that even when it comes to pulp that is produced from sesame, it's also forbidden when it comes to insulation. Le'inyan, however, in regard to asuke havlo de zeisim maske havlo, shumshumin lo maske havlo, but radiating heat upwards, the mark of olives radiate heat upward. On the other hand, the mark of sesame does not radiate heat upward. I guess it only radiates heat downward. So it says in the note, perhaps the actual the insulation, is forbidden even with the sesame mark, with the pulp made from sesame, despite its less intense heat. Is not as the sesame pulp does not generate intense heat as much as the olives pulp. Rabba and Rabbi Zera once visited the house of the auxiliary. Reish Galusa is the auxiliary. And and they observed a certain servant placing a jug of water on the mouth of a kettle in order to heat the water in the jug. there was not sufficient heat generated by the kettle to cook the water in the jug, so the servant wished merely to warm the water somewhat. So what did he do? He placed the jug of water on the mouth of a kettle in order to heat the water in the jug. Nazhe Rabba, upon seeing this, Rabba scolded the servant, told him not to do it. Rabbi Zera said to Rabba, how is this case different from the case of kettle on top of a kettle, which is permitted? What's wrong? Why can't you put a jug on top of a kettle, and a kettle on top of a kettle is permissible? He answered them there in the case of the Baisa by placing two kettles together. Just on a side note, I just remembered, whoever didn't count yesterday should count the Omer today. It's counting 13. Should count today, it's 13, should say the Sfira. You don't have to say the bracha if you didn't count last night, but tonight you'll be able to say the bracha for the tonight's Sfira. So if you didn't say it now.
If they didn't miss the whole day.
Yeah. We can still say it without bracha.
Right.
So anyhow, he answered them there in the case of a Baisa by placing two kettles together. One is merely preserving the heat of the top kettle. But here, by placing the jug on top of the kettle, one is engendering heat in the jug of cold water. So I guess you will be cooking the cold water in the jug. Exactly, what's the difference between a jug and a kettle? Ashmo.
Jug is like a thing like this, and you have a handle on the top. A kettle is like...
No, in terms of I know the shape is different, but in terms of the material that is being made, it could be also different. And the functionality of it also.
It could be, but it doesn't have to be. I mean, I don't know.
Right. I mean, you can have a jug from stainless steel, and you can have a kettle from stainless steel.
Or you can have a clay.
But kettle is made to be warmed up, to be very hot.
Right. A jug could be cold, hot, whatever.
Right. So, Hador Chazid Ifras Distoida Pumed Dechuch Vanach Natlo Eloi. Rabba later observed the servant spreading a turban over the mouth of a jug and laying a ladle on it. Nazhe Rabba, again Rabba scolded the servant. Amar le Rabbi Zera Amai. Rabbi Zera said to him, why did you scold him? Amar le Ashto Chozis. He answered him, you will soon see. Ultimately saw the servant squeezing the turban in order to extract the water it had absorbed.
That's a big no-no.
Yeah, exactly. Thereby, eventually, that Rabba scolded the servant, saying thereby violating the Shabbos. It was in anticipation of just this eventuality that Rabba has scolded the servant. He knew what was coming.
Right.
Rabba answered him there in the case of a rag. He does not care about the rag and will not be tempted to squeeze it out. But here in the case of a turban, he cares about it and likely to squeeze it out, as indeed happened. Okay, the Mishnah states, no with a straw, you should not insulate. You should not do atmana with a straw. So the Gemara asks, regarding dry flocking, with which one insulated food on Friday, may one move it on the Shabbos? Just because one does not have a box of straw handy for use, for insulating, does he therefore renounce a valuable box of flocking? Because one may insulate with wool shearings with mats of combed wool, with stripes of purple wool, and with flocking, but one may not move them. The Baisa seems to state clearly that flocking, even when used for insulation, remains muktzeh and cannot be moved. If your support for Abai's ruling is based on this, no parallel can be drawn. For when the Baisa says that flocking cannot be moved, it means as follows. If one did not use the flocking for insulation, one cannot move it. If one did not use the flocking for insulation, one cannot move it. If it was used for insulation, however, the flocking is in fact not muktzeh. If so, that the Baisa means that one cannot move flocking when it was not used for insulation, why does the Baisa need to state this at all? It is obvious that flocking that is not being used for insulation is muktzeh, since it is reserved to be made into felt. The Baisa ruling is not obvious. You might have thought that flocking is fit to recline on, since it has a useful Shabbos function. It is not muktzeh. The Baisa therefore informs us that this is not so, since the flocking would normally be used for reclining, would not normally be used for reclining. It is muktzeh. The Gemara quotes an unrelated ruling which involves flocking. Rav Chizda, we're holding on 48A2, bottom left. The Gemara quotes an unrelated ruling which also involves flocking. Rav Chizda shoro la'adure udro levei sadio b'shabbat. Rav Chizda allowed returning stuffing, flocking into a pillow on the Shabbos. I guess the feathers, put them back. He did not consider this a violation of the prohibition against fashioning a utensil on the Shabbos. An objection is raised. Rav Chanan bar Chizda matirin beis hatzavar b'Shabbos avoloi poischin. Rav Chanan bar Chizda challenged Rav Chizda from the following Baisa: one may untie the neck opening of a garment on the Shabbos, but one may not open it up in the first place. Again, one may untie the neck opening of a garment on the Shabbos. Clothing would customarily come back from the laundry with collar tied shut, because the knot was never meant to be permanent. It was permitted to untie it on Shabbos. So one may untie the neck opening of a garment on the Shabbos. It was made to be untied, but one may not open it up in the first place. One may not tear a piece of fabric to open up a collar hole in order that it be used as a garment. This would violate the prohibition against fashioning a utensil, a garment on the Shabbos. Rashi did not state more simply that this would violate the malacha of tearing. Anyhow, no, may one place flocking into a mattress or into a pillow on a festival, and goes without saying on the Shabbos. The Brisa states clearly that it is forbidden to put stuffing into a pillow on the Shabbos, contradicting Rav Chizda's ruling.
So if your pillow broke, you can't put the stuff back into it on Shabbos or Yantiv.
Well, it speaks about maybe creating a pillow on Shabbos.
I'm not talking about creating. I got that. Creating.
You have the flocking separate, and you have the sheet separate, and now you're putting it in.
I'm just saying, if you had a pillow and it was like stuck with.
Well, it doesn't. It's the halacha is still in developing.
Okay,
Can't,
I'm just saying. I'm just.
Well, anyhow, kasha. There's no difficulty here.
New pillows. Okay, there you go.
Concerning new pillows that have never been stuffed, by placing stuffing inside them, one is fashioning them into a pillow, which is forbidden.
Okay.
But the other case that Rav Chisda concerns old pillow from which the stuffing has fallen out, since the pillow has already been fashioned, merely returning the stuffing into it is not considered fashioning a utensil, and it is not forbidden.
No worries.
See? Tanya Namiyachi. One may not place stuffing into a mattress or into a pillow on a festival, and it goes without saying. On the Shabbos, you shouldn't do it. No, but if they've fallen out, then you're allowed to put them back. The previously quoted Baita mentioned that it is forbidden to open up a collar for the first time on Shabbos. The Gemara addresses this topic. One who opens up the neck opening in a garment for the first time on the Shabbos, is liable to a chatas offering. He has violated the Shabbos on the biblical level. Rav Kahana challenged this ruling from the following Baisel. 48b1. Ma bein zulm gufas chovis. How does this differ? Opening a shirt for the first time, untying a collar the first time, then opening a barrel lead. We know from a Baisa cited below on 146a that one may lop off, thank you, the top of a sealed barrel with a sword, I guess a knife, in order to open the barrel and remove its contents. We see from this that the mere creation of an opening is not considered completing a utensil. You can argue about a can.
A can or milk with the plastic thing.
Yeah. Amar l'Rava zeh chibu, this material in which the shirt opening is made is bonded. It is one unbroken piece of material. Therefore, opening it up is creating something new, and it is the category of completing a utensil. V'zeh no chibu, but this one, the lid which seals the opening of the barrel, is not bonded, meaning it is not one piece with the barrel. Therefore, the barrel is considered to have had an opening even before its top was lopped off. And the opening created thereby is not in the category of completing a utensil because it's two separate things. The barrel is one and the lid is another. Rabbi Yirmiyah opposed a contradiction to Rabbi Zeira. Tenan shalol shel kevsin, article of clothing loosely stitched together by launderers, v'shalshele shel maftichos, and a keychain, v'abeged shutofu bechilaim, and a garment whose component pieces were sewn together with shatnez thread, section of woolen garment sewn together with linen thread, sewn together with linen thread. Chibru letuma, they are considered joined, meaning treated as a single utensil for purposes of tuma. If one of the articles joined by these mediums becomes tameh, the other articles becomes tameh as well. Ad shiyas chilatir, until the person begins to separate them. Alma shaloi b'shas melocha nami chibu. Now the laundry bundle was stitched together only in order to facilitate washing, and yet the Mishnah treat the bundle as a single unit even after the person finishes washing it. Evidently, once utensils are joined for the purpose of performing certain work with them, they are considered joined even while no work is being performed with them. Ureminu, but contrast this Mishnah, the following Mishnah. Makel she'oso yad lekur doim. What is a kurdoim? Regarding a stick which one made into a makeshift axe handle. He inserted a wooden stick into an ox head in a temporary fashion without fastening it there. He put it together, took the handle, put it inside the axe head, but he didn't fasten it. He didn't put it tightly. Chibur letum v'shas melocha, it is considered joined to the axe for purposes of tuma while work is being performed with the axe. The implication is, b'shas melocha, in while work is being performed, yes, the handle and axe and the handle and the axe head are considered one utensil. Shaloi b'shas melocha, but while work is not being performed, they are not considered as one. We see that an attachment is considered significant for tuma only while the attachment is needed. Amar lei, some shaloi b'shas melocha, while there in the case of axe handle, while no work is being performed when finished using the axe. Odom osu lezorkoi leveina, a person is wont to remove the stick and toss it among the other pieces of wood. Hacha, here, here in the case of the garments stitched together by launderers, even while no work is being performed, meaning after the garments are laundered, one is also pleased that the stitches remain in place. Why? So that if the clothing should become soiled again, they get dirty again, you can launder them without having to restitch them. I guess that was a procedure that was done back then.
Okay, if you get a shirt and it's like knitted together at the top, I mean from the dry cleaner or whatever, you're opening it for the purpose of putting it on now. So you have this shirt that you want to put on Shabbos, and so you got to open this thing up. So sometimes you could pull it. Now, why is that different than opening the jug or the barrel? Because you're opening the barrel to get the wine, to drink the wine on Shabbos.
So the Gemara answered that when it comes to the barrel, it's two separate things. The jug and the barrel and the lid are two separate items. With the shirt, it's one item. So they distinguished between something came back from the laundry or something that is brand new.
Brand new, I can understand a little bit different.
Yeah. Anyhow, he said in Surah they said it in the name of Chizda. In Pumbedita they said the statement in the name of Rav Kahana. Some say it was said in the name of Rav Mantana Milto de Omu. Which Tana taught this principle? Rabbana, the rabbis. What did they teach? Whatever is attached to a thing, even if not necessary for that thing's operation, is considered like the thing itself. Anything that attached to you is like you. It is Rabbi Meir that nan beisapach uveisatavlim uveisaner shebekira, regarding a flax receptacle and a spice receptacle and a lamp receptacle of a kira, metamim b'mago. They become tame through contact. Metamim b'mago. They become tame through contact if the kira, its inside walls or floors, is connected by by tuma, if the kira, its inside walls or floor, is contacted by tuma, these receptacles likewise become tameh. But they do not become tameh through tuma falling into the kira's airspace. These are the words of Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Shimon declares the receptacle store in all cases. It is well in regard to Rabbi Shimon, for he maintains that receptacles are not considered like kira itself. Rabbi Meir, but what about Rabbi Meir? What he will say? If they are considered like the kira itself, then let them contract tuma, even through tuma falling into the airspace of the kira. If they are not considered like kira, like the kira itself, they should not contract tuma, even through tuma coming into physical contact with the kira. So the Gemara answers, they are in fact not treated like kira itself. It was the rabbis who decreed concerning them that they be considered joined to the kira. Accordingly, the rabbis decreed that they be considered joined only insofar as tuma contracted through contact, but not insofar as tuma contracted through airspace, only through contact. Let them become tameh even via airspace. Why only through contact? The rabbis made a distinguishing feature in regard to them, so that one should not come to burn Tuma and Kochim on account of it, meaning Tuma contracted through these connections. Tanu Rabban Mispor Shel Prokim, scissors made of two sections, Veizmer Sheritoni, and carpenter's plane, a plane whose blade is made to be removed from its wooden handle after use. Chibur Letuma are considered attached with regard to Tuma. If one part contracts Tuma, the other part is automatically Tameh as well. But they are not considered attached with regard to purification through sprinkling. Obviously, of paraduma ashes, the red heifer ashes, both parts must be sprinkled on separately. Man of shoch, whichever way you wish to view these utensils, the vice's ruling is difficult. If their attachment is legally considered an attachment, then the part should be considered joined, even with regard to sprinkling. And if, on the other hand, the attachment is not a legal attachment, then even with regard to Tuma, they should not be considered attached. Amar Rava said, by Torah law, while the scissors and plane are in use, they are considered attached both with regard to Tuma and with regard to sprinkling.
Here's a result from the web.
And while they are not in use, they are not considered attached neither with regard to Tuma nor with regard to sprinkling.
Because you can't use them.
Yeah, we'll continue, God willing, tomorrow. We'll have another class shortly on the Tractate Shabbos.